Good morning. It is 7:16 a.m. on Monday, January 18th, 2016. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. I've ruined everything, you guys. Not really. I'm just running late. I stayed up later than I should have because I was so close to the end of Fallout 4 and I wanted to just push through to the end and it just kept taking longer and longer than I thought it would. So that ended up making me stay up late, but I did finish it. So I have really strong mixed feelings about the story in that game. In the end, I tweeted right after finishing it that I kind of want to applaud and flip at the bird at the same time. I think that would be physically difficult, but you know. Uh, Yeah, so I won't get into any spoilers here, although I suspect that I might be having a podcast discussion to get into the real nitty gritty of it. But I think the short version of what's a little bit frustrating about it is that while it has some really cool ideas going on in there, it's the tension in a game like this between allowing you to do whatever you want and then having to try to tell a coherent story where just the requirement of being able to do that is you have to kind of just start to narrow in what is possible so that you don't have to have an infinite number of cutscenes or whatever. The the problem is though that in this game towards the end, and I only did one of, I believe, 4 different paths. But whichever path you choose, I suspect is going to be the same in that in order to pursue that path, it makes you do things that you probably wouldn't want to do, except that you need to do them in order to progress the game. That was my frustration, is that when it starts trying to narrow my options in order to funnel me into one of the 4 predetermined endings, that part made me feel like, well, but that's not what I want to do. But if I want one of these 4 endings, I've got to do it. And that's, I think, where I struggled. And although there's some cool ideas in there, when I compare it to another game that people had some similar complaints about, let's say Mass Effect 3, and I won't get into spoilers for that either, really, but one of the big complaints that some people had about it was, again, just that it took all of these massive different things that could have happened and then it funneled it down to just you make one of 3 choices. Now, I actually liked the Mass Effect 3 ending, so take that for what it's worth. Because in that game, I felt like all the little loose ends and bits in story were taken care of during other missions. And so it really just sort of was pruning off the extra story bits as you went until it really, that's all that was left. And it limited you to 3 choices with an in-story justification. There is an explanation that says, look, you want to solve this problem, right? There's only 3 possible ways to do that. There's this one, and this one. You have to pick which one happens now. But those are really the only 3 things that can be done. And it made sense in universe that you would not have the power to make it be something else. But when it starts limiting your options in Fallout, it doesn't make any sense why I wouldn't be able to do something else. It just decides, no, you could do all of these other things, but only this one will let you move the story forward. Instead of like, well, but what if I wanted to see what happened if I invited this guy and this guy to a neutral meeting place and we tried to form an uneasy detente instead of killing one or the other? Like, what would happen if I did that? Like, so for a game that, like Fallout, where most of it is spent giving you tons and tons of choice, when it starts to narrow your choices, which I understand it has to be done, but when it does, it feels like instead of limiting your options, it limits your actions, which doesn't make as much sense in story, and it was frustrating as a result. It would probably be easier to explain if I had the spoiler examples, but I'm still going to refrain for now. In any case, I'm already late for work, so I'll talk to you guys tomorrow for 5 more minutes.